From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, we head to the pumpkin patch to check on this year's harvest. A farmer strikes back after a toxic chemical affects his dairy. And the president announcing a phase 1 trade agreement with China, but questions remain.
A tremendous deal for the farmers.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The phase 1 trade agreement between the U.S. and China continuing to be the focus right now, with China saying it wants more talks before signing the accord. Here's the latest. China on Monday describing trade negotiations with the U.S. as constructive. China's state-run media only saying the two sides, quote, agreed to make joint efforts toward eventually reaching an agreement. President Trump agreeing on Friday to put off tariff hikes on Chinese goods due to take effect this week. In exchange, she said China would buy American farm goods. Amid those questions about what phase 1 actually means, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin insisted the two countries have an agreement in principle, saying both sides expect to have phase 1 of the deal signed by the APEC summit in Chile in mid-November.
This is like when you buy a building, you've reached an agreement to buy a building, and now you got to negotiate the contract. So
there will be more talks before anything is signed off on.
Well, again, there's execution work to be done on the document, but this document is substantially done. We made a lot of progress, and our expectation is this will be concluded and signed by Chile.
Now, Mnuchin says there will be deputy-level calls between the two countries this week, and he says there will be principal-level calls next week that will include Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and China's Vice Premier. The commodity market seeming cautious on Monday following the trade agreement announcement. National reporter Betsy Gibbon joins us from the AgDay newsroom. Betsy, many questions remain in traders' minds.
Clinton, there are a couple of factors why the markets were mostly muted during Monday's trading session after a big rally on Friday.
Grain markets not moving much during Monday's trading session as analysts see what the rest of the week brings.
It is a holiday trade day, so it is really quiet, really low volume. Tuesday will probably be when things get a bit more active.
A particular focus on the markets after President Trump announced late Friday the U.S. and China have reached a phase 1 trade agreement. The deal has yet to be officially penned on paper.
Subject to getting it written. It'll take probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 5 weeks.
That's where you get into the translation problems, because the Chinese press, rather than the U.S. calling this a deal, the Chinese press are calling it a pause.
President Trump tweeting how, quote, my deal with China is that they will immediately start buying very large quantities of our agricultural product.
A tremendous deal for the farmers.
President Trump saying the Chinese will buy $40 to $50 billion worth of ag goods, a number he's acknowledging is a big amount.
That would be 2.5, 3 times what China had purchased at its highest point thus far.
Seifert says if China buys that much, it will be very friendly to the market. But those are big purchases the U.S. hasn't seen in years from China.
I'm assuming that would mean per year. If that is the case, that is a really big number, almost unbelievable, considering that in 2012 and 13, that was the high water mark set by China, and keep in mind what soybean prices were doing at that time.
Wiesmeyer saying Chinese media may consider this a pause because not all tariffs have been lifted. However, the U.S. has postponed putting tariffs on Chinese goods this week. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says that if we don't make a deal with China, the U.S. will impose tariffs on China in December, even though he believes a deal will eventually be passed. Clinton?
Thanks, Betsy. And while the president says China will be buying even more U.S. ag products, the numbers from last month show they are already returning to the market. China's September soybean imports are up from a year ago. China imported 8.2 million metric tons of soybeans during September. That's a 13.5% slide from August, but it's a 2.4% increase from year-ago levels. Now, China's pork imports surged 76% last month from a year earlier. You can always use some extra hands out in the field, as meteorologist Mike Hoffman shows us in today's Crop Comments. Mike?
Thanks, Clinton. Well, you have to see this. Amanda Conan of Mendon, Ohio shared this picture with us. This little girl named Maylee will be turning 2 next month, and her dad is a grain farmer. Her mom is an agronomy sales rep, and Mom says Maylee and her brother may be working in ag one day. She says this photo makes her daughter look like a future agriculturalist. Now, taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see a little bit windy. Central and northern plains. It becomes windier this afternoon across Iowa, Nebraska, some of the surrounding states down into Oklahoma. Heading through the nighttime hours tonight, the winds shift over into the western Great Lakes and down into South Texas with that cool front. And you can see the winds continue for much of the Great Lakes and parts of the west as we head through tomorrow afternoon. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
The United Nations Food Agency warns that around 14% of food produced globally is lost. It's urging people to take action to address the cause of food waste. In a report unveiled Monday, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization stressed the need to reduce food waste. It said Central and Southern Asia have the highest level of food losses at over 20%. That's followed by North America and Europe at more than 15%. However, it noted that a combination of causes, including harvesting and handling practices, lack of infrastructure, diseases, and climatic conditions, keep fueling massive food losses around the world. It now has a goal to reduce food waste by the year 2030 to 12.3%. One thing that never goes to waste in my house, cheese. Well, when we come back, we'll talk cheese and cheese prices for U.S. producers, and later, decorating for Halloween isn't complete without 1 or 2 or 3 of these. We check in on pumpkin harvest.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
September was a good month overall for retail sales of tractors and combines. That's according to the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. It reports total farm tractor sales in the U.S. were up more than 18% last month. Self-propelled combine sales increased more than 12%. Now, year to date, tractor sales are up nearly 5%. Soybeans and cattle making some gains on Monday, with China continuing to be the focus. Here's more from the CME.
Today in the grain market, we saw soybeans rising. The deal is on the table, hopefully, with the U.S. and China. The president announced that the deal was going to be made, but still China is mum about it. The corn was slightly easier. Actually was a trade on both sides of unchanged today, but the uncertainty really stalled those futures out. I think that the speculator traders are still a little bit short. Will they start to cover, or are they going to wait for the dust to settle to find out? We did get over $4 today. That means something. There is some optimism that maybe the market might be moving a little bit higher, and there is snow in the northern plains. All those things could definitely continue to drive the market, but we're waiting to see as the USDA comes back tomorrow to find out if they confirm if there's actually a deal at hand and what exactly is it.
Dairy prices have been on a steady march upward, helped in part by strong cheese demand. National reporter Betsy Gibbon recently spoke with Commodity Risk Management Group's Mike North about those prices and the outlook going forward.
Mike, the cheese market has been pretty volatile, up and down roller coaster swings. What advice are you giving to producers right now when they look at that chart and then they figure for 2020?
Well, there was a lot of excitement in September. We watched block cheese move from a value in the CME spot market from a mid 180, low 190 range all the way up to 223 before falling back to $1.90 again, and now building back off of that and making another little move higher. And so as we came through that first big run, we saw some pretty nice prices in the 2019 calendar. October milk got to $19.72. We had November milk that was north of $19. We had December milk that was, quite inflated as well. And as we looked further out beyond that, we still never saw the 2020 marketplace get much beyond $17. A lot of people were very excited about the $19 milk. And it was very exciting to see prices we haven't touched for the last 5 years. But there is a relationship that takes place both between the cheese and the milk, and then the nearby milk price to the distant milk price. And so if we can get another move back higher in cheese, that will naturally inflate the near-term contracts the most. And as you're watching that, what you need to be thinking about is not just how do I manage this current opportunity with these prices I love, but what then do I also do with these prices that are further out, January, February, out through June, maybe even beyond that in 2020. And the reality of $17 milk, as you go back in the last 5 years, is that it sits at the top end of what's been the normal range. That's where you start having some conversations. Our group works with people on, managing that price with DRP, with options, futures, and all the tools available. Those are conversations that need to be had, and that's where dairymen should start reaching out and saying, what do I do, and what can I do right now?
Do you think that milk price will follow the cheese price?
If cheese price makes a move, absolutely.
All right, excellent. Good stuff there. Appreciate the time. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a moment.
Cut through the uncertainty in the markets. Give Mike a call at 608-764-0012. Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Meteorologist Mike Hoffman is here. Mike, frosts and freezes were pretty widespread during the weekend, and that may have ended the growing season for a lot of folks out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that may very well have. That high pressure system is moving off to the east. Have some good news in the southeast for a change, though, as far as rain is concerned. An area of low pressure already forming over northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas. This will ride along this stationary front, giving lots of the southeast soaking rain. Not everybody, though. We'll show that coming up. Also have a storm system over the northern Mississippi Valley. Rain showers, maybe a little bit of snow on the far western fringe, and we're going to have two storm systems over the next couple of days coming into the Pacific Northwest. So putting the maps into motion, you can see that first area of low pressure moving across central Mississippi into west central Alabama by this evening. Storm system into the western lakes, fair amount of rain with that. Scattered showers and thunder showers down along the cold front. Then you can see finally that chilly area of high pressure moving offshore as we head into tomorrow morning. We have the storm in the southeast over the Carolinas by that point, and the storm in the central Great Lakes with all of the rain with that. Also, our model showing a fair amount forming along that cold front with showers and storms in south central Texas. There's the first front coming into the Pacific Northwest. We add in that second one coming in as well right behind it. So that's going to push some moisture into all of western Washington, western Oregon as well. And you can see a lot of moisture going on there. Eastern Great Lakes, parts of the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, all the way down into scattered thunderstorms over Florida. Checking out the precipitation estimate past 24 hours, adding in the next 36. There's all that moisture, 2, 3, maybe even 4-inch amounts showing up on our computer model. Southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, all the way across central and southern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, even a panhandle of Florida. Not quite as much farther north where you need it as well into parts of the Tennessee River Valley. Snowfall mainly north of the Canadian border, as you can see there, but still a few flakes along the northern tier of states. Highs this afternoon, 30s and 40s in the far north, 80s, even some 90s in South Texas and the Gulf Coast. You can see low temperatures tomorrow morning, some 20s showing up again in the Dakotas. High temperatures tomorrow, the only warm areas really, the far southeast and southwest. There's the jet stream. You can see that next trough moving through the Great Lakes into the northeast. That's by Thursday. That heads off to the northeast. A ridge comes in, but another trough already digging in over the weekend for the western states, and that's expected to come eastward early next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Circleville, Utah, first of all. Sunny and warmer today, high of 71 degrees. Harrison, Michigan, rain likely at times, high of 54. And finally, we'll go to Perry, Georgia. Showers and thunderstorms, heavy rain likely, high of 74.
One of the largest dairy producers in the country shocks many in the industry with an announcement as one farmer in the middle of a toxic controversy takes action. Next.
Ag Day, brought to you by Corvus Corn Herbicide from Bayer. Get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards. Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
A New Mexico dairy farmer is suing after several of his wells became contaminated with the chemical PFAS. Now, we told you about Art Scott earlier this year. He is the owner of Highland Dairy in Clovis, New Mexico. Scott says he's forced to dump 15,000 gallons of milk each day and had to let all but 9 of his 40 employees go. He also plans to kill all 4,000 of his cows. He says 7 of his 13 wells are contaminated by toxins that entered the groundwater at nearby Cannon Air Force Base. Now, Scott tells Farm Journal's Milk Business he was forced to file a lawsuit against the 10 manufacturers of a fire retardant foam used at the base that contained PFAS. He says he's also preparing to file a lawsuit against the Department of Defense because they denied his claim to settle. He does say the dairy indemnity program through USDA is helping offset the cost of dumping the milk. Dean Foods announces it is leaving the International Dairy Foods Association. The company saying it's leaving over labeling of dairy products and plant-based beverages. In a statement, the company said, quote, "We have reached a point where one of our key priorities is no longer shared by the entire IDFA organization." Going on to say, quote, "We believe it is wrong that many plant-based products are currently marketed using milk's good name, yet are lacking several of the inherent nutrients of their dairy counterparts," end quote. A senior vice president for the company saying that instead, Dean Foods will divert advocacy resources to pursue accurate product labeling for the benefit of the dairy industry. Coming up, celebrating a fall-time tradition.
I'm Charles Denny, the symbol of fall and Halloween, a bright orange pumpkin. That story from Sadler Farm in Wilson County, Tennessee, coming up on AgDay.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
October is pumpkin season with lots of farms offering pumpkin patches where you can select a beautiful decoration. The University of Tennessee's Institute of Agriculture works with producers statewide, and Charles Denny takes us to a couple of farms where they cultivate the fall classic for display or eating.
I thought they would get a deeper color like this one. I guess this is a cousin.
Pumpkins come in many colors and sizes at the Sadler Farm near Auburntown, where they produce some 15 varieties. White pumpkins are a big hit these days for autumn weddings. As fall arrives, some of these big boys are still plumping up in the fields and should weigh several hundred pounds when put on the scales. Mostly a word-of-mouth agribusiness, the Sadlers offer pumpkins as part of their overall farming operation, selling right on their property. Even the barn cat guarding the place is named Pumpkin.
With each year, we seem to grow. And with each year, you learn what people want. So you try to plant and grow around what people want because that's what's most popular.
This area where Wilson, Cannon, and DeKalb counties come together is a good spot for pumpkin production, though this year has seen a mix of too wet followed by too dry. Typical of agriculture, harvest depends on growing conditions.
But we're seeing a lot of farms move to kind of a diverse operation because some years some things will do better than others, and sometimes pumpkins will have good years and sometimes they'll have bad years, and that's kind of dependent on the rains, which we don't know when it's going to rain in Tennessee.
At your Halloween shindig, impress your friends with pumpkin trivia. The average pumpkin is more than 90% water, but still has more than 500 seeds. We grow more than 1 billion pounds of pumpkins each year in the U.S., and in Tennessee, pumpkin sales generate more than $5 million for our ag economy.
And we found that a number of people don't want a complete orange pumpkin. They want the striations and the green.
Keith Hart runs Laurel's Pumpkin Barn in Johnson City. Retired now as UT Extension Director for Carter County, he grows 90 varieties of pumpkins, gourds, and squash.
And from the very beginning, I wanted this to be friendly, happy, and nothing scary for children. And that's been the premise on every move we've made.
Pumpkin season doesn't have to end with Halloween. These should keep a while as long as they don't soak up too much hot sun. This is Charles Denny reporting.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in the farm country.
AgDay, brought to you by the Milk Business Conference. Don't miss this dairy business-focused event November 11th and 12th, 2019 in Las Vegas. Register today at milkbusinessconference.com.